The Government of India invoked emergency powers and directed YouTube and Twitter to take down all the URLs that are sharing the BBC documentary on PM Modi's role in Gujarat riots of 2002, titled India, the Modi Question. The government cited Rule 16(3) of the IT Rules and Section 69A of IT Act 2000 to ask for removal of the posts. Under this rule, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting can block any content on the internet without consulting the user or the intermediary. In the video, we shall understand the rules of the IT Act 2021 and what are these emergency powers that the government has cited. So, the BBC on January 17 released the part 1 of an investigative documentary on the Gujarat riots 2002 and its aftermath. Along with single-handedly blaming PM Modi for the riots, the documentary also brings to the fore a never-seen-before UK government fact-finding document. This document of the UK government also blames the then Gujarat CM for the carnage in the state. Once the documentary was out, it was blocked by the Government of India, citing emergency powers under the IT Rules Act of 2021. The Ministry of Information and Broadcast ordered Twitter and Facebook to delete any posts sharing the link to the BBC documentary. Tweets of about 50 people, including TMC MP Derek O'Brien, journalist Ghazala Wahab, Kavita Krishnan, etc., were blocked. All of them had shared links to the BBC documentary on PM Modi. Kanchan Gupta, a senior advisor at the Ministry of Information and Broadcast, said both Twitter and YouTube complied with taking down the links sharing the BBC documentary. The spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs has alleged that the documentary pushed a discredited narrative. He went on to call the documentary a propaganda piece which lacks objectivity and accused BBC of having a colonial mindset. On the other hand, the opposition leaders like Mahua Moitra, Jairam Ramesh and others called the blocking of BBC documentary as censorship. The BJP responded to these allegations of censorship, saying that the people who are opposing the ban are undermining the authority of the Supreme Court, which had pronounced a judgment saying that there was no larger conspiracy in the Gujarat riots. Well, now let us understand the Rule 16 of the IT Rules, which has given the power to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting to invoke emergency powers to disable or block content from the internet. The information technology rules that were notified in February 2021 are formally called the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines in Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021. A number of petitions are filed in the court challenging these rules. The Wire 2 is one of the petitioners. Rule 16 lays down the Union government's power of blocking of information in case of an emergency. It allows the government to order the immediate removal of content in the interest of India's sovereignty, security, friendly relations with countries, and to maintain law and order. The rule says that in case of an emergency where no delay is acceptable, the ministry's secretary may, as an interim measure, issue directives to identifiable persons, publishers, or intermediaries to block public access to certain content upon satisfaction that it is necessary or expedient and justifiable to do so. While doing so, the ministry can block the content without providing the intermediary an opportunity to be heard. The rule says that it is a measure for which no delay is acceptable. Now, who is an intermediary? An intermediary, by definition, is any person who on behalf of another person receives, stores or transmits that record or provides any service with respect to the record. In this case of blocking the BBC documentary, the intermediaries are Twitter and YouTube. So, the ministry, by invoking emergency powers under the IT Act, ordered Twitter and Facebook to take down URLs sharing the BBC documentary. What else does the Rule 16 state? Rule 16(3) of the Information Technology Rules also requires the authorized officer to place the ban request before a review committee within 48 hours to decide if the ban needs to continue. However, there is no clarity on the process of reviewing the ban. The authorized officer in charge of exercising powers under Rule 16 of the IT Rules 2021 is the chairperson of the Inter-Ministerial Committee under the three-tier mechanism established under the IT Rules and is responsible for the administration of the Code of Ethics. Given that the operation of the three-tier mechanism and the Code of Ethics have been stayed by the Bombay and Madras High Courts, the appointment of the authorized officer and the exercise of its powers is constitutionally suspect. Now, what is the opposition to the Act? The Internet Freedom Foundation has stated that the Act will bring more control rather than regulation on social media and OTT. It also says that, and I quote, Several requirements under the Act suffer from unconstitutionality and undermine the free expression and privacy for millions of internet users in India. Why does the Internet Foundation, or IFF, fear that the new IT rules undermine free speech? Let's understand this using an example. For example, the IFF had filed an RTI asking for passing an order to block Twitter accounts of Caravan Magazine and Kisan Ekta Morcha. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology replied in just one line, stating that due process was followed, thus not revealing anything about the said process of blocking the Twitter accounts. As a result, the IFF claims that there is no way for the public to know on what basis the government asked for a post to be censored. Well, censorship is not a new phenomenon for India. It can be traced to Nehru's days when India's first PM had banned the book 9 Hours to Rama, a fictional account on Mahatma Gandhi's assassination by Hindu extremist Nathuram Godse. Later, Indira Gandhi's tenure witnessed a series of censorships during the days of emergency in 1975. Although it has been observed that if something gets blocked or banned, it attracts more eyeballs, just like it did in the case of Salman Rushdie's novel, The Satanic Verses. The Modi government has been proactive in censoring content since it came to power. An IFF RTI reveals that there has been a 1991% rise in the number of URLs blocked from 2014 to 2020. In the recent past, the center had blocked certain YouTube channels for spreading disinformation. The Wire had spoken with founder of one such blocked channels, Loktantra TV. So if successive governments have been proactive in censoring content, what is different now? In an article, Tarun Pratap and Sana Alam of Digital Empowerment Foundation write that, and I quote, "The idea that government can wish to block the content which they feel like is nothing but state surveillance. Also, the formulation process of these guidelines does not seem to have followed the constitutional guidelines in terms of these rules are presented without a parliamentary debate, ignoring the very democratic process of involving all stakeholders and opposition while formulating new policies." These were some of the important points that one needs to take in consideration while understanding the IT rules 2021. What do you feel about the new rules and the censorship with regards to the BBC documentary? Do let us know in comments below.